All right, we're done with our assumptions, so we just got to calculate all the things we want. Once we have those, I'll clean this up a little bit and stuff like that. So discounted cash flow. So anytime we want to discount, first we need to, I guess we're not done with assumptions. We need one more. We need to calculate what we're going to discount by. We're going to use WACC again. It's not always the appropriate thing to discount by, depending on the risk relative to the overall risk of the company, but we're going to start with that, and then we can adjust from there if we want to. So if the project is more or less risky, we can adjust from there. Our capital structure is this way. So we have 145 billion in debt, 100 billion in equity. So 145 billion in debt, which as a percentage is 145 plus 100, since that's debt plus equity. So there's the weight of debt times the cost of debt, 5.7%. And then, of course, it's debt is tax. You can get rid of the interest through taxes. So there's a interest tax shield. So we can multiply that by 1 minus our tax rate, which we already have down here. So there's the debt portion, and then we're going to add equity portion. Equity portion is the other part of the total weight, so the 100 over 145 plus 100. So the denominator is the same, but now we want the percent of equity. And then we multiply that by our cost of equity, which is 10.6%. You do not get a tax shield on this portion, and there's our cost of capital. Okay, so there's cost of capital. And then we just discount like normal. So divide everything by 1 plus our discount rate. Lock that to the power of how far away from time 0 we are. So the stuff in time 0, what did I do? B16. That should be B1, not B2. Sorry. 0, not the 20 million. Negative 20 million. There we go. To the power, right? So we're going to use our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up through 20 up there. And then you just drag it on over, right? So no big deal. NPV is just the sum of our discounted cash flows. And then we can calculate all our normal stuff that we like to do too. So IRR, PI, things like that. IRR, again, is built into Excel. You want the non-discounted cash flows. So you just take these and put them in here. This is where your half actually throws off the IRR slightly. So we would have to modify it to get it perfect. I can show you how to do that another time, though. So this is where the half things cause problems. So this having a 1.5 time period. So we could do it that way. We could also run a separate string where we roll the 1400 into the 2. Basically take that 14 million out of this 17, and that would give us a slightly more accurate look at it and stuff like that. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. It's not important enough for me to spend the time on. PI, again, is just NPV over the total. So we're going to put the sum of all 3 of what we spent. If you've forgotten that, I'm going to make those positive. So there's your PI. If we wanted discounted payback, and I'll separate this out. This is probably the most complicated thing to build. Discounted payback. We can do something like this. Again, we don't have to do it till the project starts. This is one I could write it in front of you, and I could probably get it right. I probably screwed up the first time and stuff like that. This is where once you build models, though, what you're really going to do is you're going to take your old models and just plug your new numbers in. You're not going to rebuild the model from scratch every time. And so that's where I have an older version of this, or maybe the same version of this. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember when I built this particular one. And I've already got the discounted payback thing built in here. And you'll see why I don't want to rebuild it from scratch again. But it's an if statement. It's a long one. Where what we're doing is we're basically turning on a switch. So we're having it look for where we pay back in discounted terms, and it does a calculation at that point, and then it turns back off. So we can walk through here and kind of talk about what it's doing, but really what you're doing is an if and where we want to make sure the sum of starting with B18. Let's see, we actually want B17, so I got to rewire this a little bit. B17 to the one we're in, D17. We want to make sure if that is not positive, so 17 to E17. Okay, so if the previous, so if you look, the first range is D17 to D17, which is these three. If we have, if this is greater than, is not greater than basically 0, I have it at 0.5, but if you just put 0, it gets grumpy at you. You can put 0.1 if you want, or whatever, 0.01, it doesn't matter. But if we hadn't paid back yet, but the sum of B17 to E17 is greater than 0, then we want it to do the calculation. Okay, so it's looking to say, oh, we hadn't paid back before, but we just paid back. So it's just looking for the year where we actually go positive for the first time. Once we do that, then it's going to do a calculation where it takes the previous year up here plus basically the percent of the next year it takes to pay off. And so you can walk through what it's doing there. And I'm doing it in a way that hopefully makes sense. But if you have any problems with that, just let me know, because it is a weird calculation. And so then when you drag it over, eventually we should have it pop up. So it should pop up in the year where we pay off. So if you look, again, what happened is the year before, our NPV was still negative $4 million. This year we had a $4.4 million and more NPV added. So that's the year. That's the year where we crossed over into positive territory. And so that's year 18. So our payoff period was 17 and 0.9 years basically to pay off the project. Again, I don't like discounted payback, so I only teach it to you because I know some places still make you do stuff like this. But once you have that formula built, you can just copy it and paste it into any of your any of your models, and then you're fine. All right, the rest of it, let's just clean up our stuff. So again, right now I've had it compressed and I've kind of built it in a specific way so I can work all easily. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit easier to read. So one of the things I want to do is put commas in. I do not want the decimals though. This will stretch my model out a little bit where I can't see it all anymore. I do want to put some bordering around it and separate some things out. So for instance, when we get to here, here, I probably want to bold this and put a border over it like that, so that we know that that's where we're summing things. And then again, we'll do that here. So here, and then one more time here. Oh, I should have done the top there. I'm sorry. Outside border, top border. So we know where the calculated rows are, like that. So we'll clean that up a little bit. This looks like garbage. I'd rather have that in dollars. I don't really need cents when we're talking about $11 million. Again, we have a positive NPV. That's good. I don't need 400 decimal places on PI. Stuff like that. So I'm cleaning it up a little bit and things like that. The other thing we used to do, and I did this a lot, was we would mark out any input cells. So anywhere where we directly input, I would put some stuff in. I will do that on my own. I'll do a couple of them here. That's too dark. So I start marking out anywhere where we just directly plugged a number in. All of our assumptions are going to be plugs. But I'll go in and make sure all the plugs are blue so we know what things we can manipulate. Everything else should be calculated. And the calculated cells you don't want to mess with. So the blue tells you the things you can change. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, after we do capital budgeting a little bit, I'm going to come back to this model and we're going to mess with things. And we're going to do data tables and we're going to do scenarios and simulation sort of stuff. So So I'll set all the blue up and things like that. That's kind of how I clean mine up. I tend to also put a border here. Again, I'm not trying to make it the prettiest, most amazing thing ever. It's already wired pretty robustly, but I want it easy to follow. That's really what I'm going to set up. So I'll start naming things and I'll start coloring things so we know what's going on. But anyway, that's the idea. So hopefully you've gotten your model to here. If you had problems with any of it, just let me know and by email or whatever, and I'll get back to you and we'll try and figure out what it is you're missing. A couple of these statements are pretty complicated, and I get that, like this one, like the decreasing revenue model thing. So I would walk through those pretty carefully, make sure you understand what they're doing, so that when we get to test time, you're ready. But otherwise, the rest of it's not too bad, I don't think. I will post also the assumptions for this and my model, and then when you do your homework, you'll have those as kind of things to lean on a little bit. Okay. All right, that's it. Video 4.